For decades, Roseanne was the heartbeat of the American working class. The Connors' living room felt like our own, filled with raw honesty and laughter that echoed through millions of homes. Yet behind the punchlines and the resilience, the cast was fighting a much darker battle off-screen. From fatal overdoses to sudden heart-stopping tragedies, the actors who made us smile endured lives of hidden pain. Today we turn off the laugh track to mourn the beloved stars of Lanford, who have left us revealing the devastating tears behind the comedy. Shelley Winters joined the show 1991 in the role of Nana Mary at 71. The two-time Oscar winner, who went from a Hollywood sex symbol to America's favorite inappropriate grandmother. Shelley Winters was a titan of cinema when she joined the cast as Nana Mary, the grandmother everyone wished they had. However, the financial reality of her later years was a stark contrast to the blockbuster money of the show's lead. While Roseanne Barr was negotiating a record-breaking $1 million per episode by the final season's Winters, a Hollywood legend with 50 years of experience was paid a standard special guest star fee estimated at roughly $25,000 to $40,000 per episode. She didn't do it for the money. She did it to stay relevant in an industry that discards aging women. Her life was a tempest of personal chaos, 3 failed marriages, a notorious reputation as a bad girl, and the lingering trauma of the Holocaust, which deeply affected her Jewish identity. Behind the senile jokes of Nana Mary was a brilliant method actress who had once roomed with Marilyn Monroe and watched her best friend die young. Winters died of heart failure on January 14, 2006, at the age of 85, just hours after marrying her longtime partner Jerry DeFord on her deathbed. She left behind a net worth of approximately $10 million of fortune built on shrewd real estate investments rather than her acting paychecks in her twilight years. Fun fact: she gained over 35 pounds for her role in the Poseidon Adventure and famously refused to use a stunt double for the underwater swimming scenes, permanently damaging her hearing due to the water pressure. Nana Mary was the grandmother we love, but Dan Connors' mother was played by another Golden Age icon, whose on-screen smile hid one of the most devastating financial collapses in Hollywood history. Debbie Reynolds joined the show 1997 in the role of Audrey Connor at 65, the Singin' in the Rain sweetheart, who worked until her final breath to pay off the debts of treacherous men. Debbie Reynolds brought instant prestige to the show as Dan's mother, but her appearance on a 90s sitcom was born out of necessity, not luxury. Despite being one of the most famous women in the world, Reynolds was financially decimated by her husbands. Her second husband, Harry Carl, gambled away her fortune, leaving her $10 million in debt in the 1970s. She spent decades working tirelessly in Las Vegas and taking guest roles like Roseanne, likely earning the standard $30,000 guest rate just to rebuild her life. She was the picture of resilience, smiling through humiliations that would have broken others. However, the final blow was not financial, but emotional. One day after her beloved daughter, Carrie Fisher, died of a heart attack, Reynolds suffered a fatal stroke. She died on December 28, 2016, at the age of 84. Her son stated she wanted to be with Carrie. She left behind a net worth of $85 million of fortune she had painstakingly clawed back from zero, proving she was the unsinkable Molly Brown in real life too. Fun fact: she owned the largest collection of Hollywood memorabilia in the world, including Marilyn Monroe's white subway dress, but was forced to auction it all off for a fraction of its value to pay creditors when her museum project failed. Debbie Reynolds played Dan Connors' mother, but the man who played his father was a character actor haunted by a single movie scene that overshadowed 40 years of brilliant work. Ned Beatty joined the show 1989 in the role of Ed Connor at 62. The traveling salesman father, whose jovial exterior hid the pain of being Hollywood's eternal punching bag. Ned Beatty played Ed Connor, the charming but often absent father of Dan. Beatty was the ultimate working actor, appearing in over 160 films, yet he never commanded the massive paychecks of a leading man. For his recurring role on Roseanne, he was paid a respectable but modest fee, estimated at $15,000 to $20,000 per episode in the early seasons. The tragedy of Beatty's career was the shadow of Deliverance. Despite being an Oscar nominee for Network, he was tormented for decades by the brutal "squeal like a pig" scene from his first movie. Passers-by would scream the line at him on the street, reducing a brilliant artist to a punchline. He suffered in silence, burying himself in work to escape the mockery. He passed away from natural causes on June 13, 2021, at the age of 83. He left behind a net worth of $5 million, a nest egg earned through sheer volume of work, proving he was the hardest working man in show business, even if he never got the respect he truly deserved. Fun fact: modern audiences know his voice better than his face. He was the menacing voice of Lotso, the villainous pink teddy bear in Pixar's Toy Story 3. Ed Conner was a complicated father, but Roseanne's own father was played by a man whose career was violently stolen from him by the U.S. government for 15 years. John Randolph joined the show 1989 in the role of Al Harris at 74, the stern patriarch who spent his prime years erased from history by the Hollywood blacklist. John Randolph played Al Harris, Roseanne's father, bringing a gritty realism to the role. But the anger in his performance may have been rooted in reality. In the 1950s, Randolph was a rising star until he was placed on the Hollywood blacklist for his political beliefs. For 15 years, he was banned from working in film or television, forcing him to scrape by in meager theater productions, while less talented actors took his place. He lost his prime earning years, millions of dollars in potential salary vanished. By the time he was cast in Roseanne, he was an old man finally getting the mainstream recognition he was denied in his youth. His pay for the sitcom was standard scale, roughly $10,000 to $15,000 per episode, a bitter reminder of the career momentum he had lost. He died on February 24, 2004, at the age of 88. He left behind a modest estate, dying as a respected elder statesman who survived the government's attempt to destroy his livelihood. Fun fact: he was the original choice to play Frank Costanza on Seinfeld and actually filmed scenes, but was replaced by Jerry Stiller. He is the lost father of George Costanza. Al Harris was a tough father, but Roseanne's boss at the diner was a man who brought sarcasm to an art form, a beloved comedian whose death in 2024 is still a fresh wound for fans. Martin Mull joined the show 1991 in the role of Leon Karp at 48, the sarcastic gay boss whose dry wit masked a deeply sensitive artist fighting a long private battle. Martin Mull played Leon Karp, Roseanne's frenemy, and one of the first openly gay recurring characters on a major sitcom. Mull was a comedy staple, but his salary was that of a supporting regular, estimated at $30,000 to $40,000 per episode, solid money, but miles away from the syndication wealth of the main cast. While Leon was cynical and biting, Mull was a gentle soul who started his career as a musician and a painter. His tragedy is the most recent on our list. He passed away on June 27, 2024, at the age of 80. His daughter revealed that he had fought a valiant battle against a long illness, a struggle he kept entirely private to protect his family and his work. He died just as the Roseanne reboot, The Conners, was wrapping up, missing the chance for a final bow. He left behind a net worth estimated at $6 million, leaving a legacy of laughter in a void that can never be filled. Fun fact: before he was a comedian, he was a serious fine arts painter with a master's degree, and his paintings are actually hung in prestigious galleries around the world, a talent he rarely discussed in interviews. Leon Karp eventually found happiness and married his partner Scott, played by a comedic genius who made a career out of playing fools but was actually the sharpest mind in the room. Fred Willard joined the show 1995 in the role of Scott at 62, the comedic genius who made history with a wedding only to die of a broken heart. Fred Willard joined the cast as Scott, the straight-laced partner of the flamboyant Leon Karp, eventually participating in one of network television's first same-sex weddings. Willard was a legend of improv comedy, yet his financial standing was that of a working actor, not a superstar. While the main cast of Roseanne was earning millions, Willard was paid a recurring guest star rate estimated at $20,000 to $25,000 per episode. He appeared in over 300 credits in his lifetime, relying on volume rather than massive paydays to build his wealth. Beneath his relentlessly cheerful, oblivious on-screen persona lay a deep private devotion to his wife of 50 years, Mary. Her death in 2018 shattered him. Friends reported that the light simply went out of his eyes. He was a man who could make the whole world laugh, but couldn't smile without her. He died on May 15, 2020, at the age of 86 from cardiac arrest. But many believe he simply died of a broken heart. He left behind a net worth of $5 million, a fortune earned one laugh at a time. But he died alone in a world that felt empty without his soulmate. Fun fact: he was so naturally funny that Christopher Guest, director of Best in Show, allowed him to improvise almost all of his lines, a freedom rarely granted in Hollywood scripts. Scott found love with Leon, but the Connor family's neighbor was a man who brought a dangerous rock and roll energy to the street, played by an actor who survived the lifestyle that killed his peers. Wings Hauser joined the show 1992 in the role of Ty Tilden at 45. The intense neighbor whose B-movie stardom faded into the shadows of Hollywood obscurity. Wings Hauser played Ty Tilden, the handsome neighbor who briefly dates Jackie. In the early 90s, Hauser was the undisputed king of the B-movies, a face known for playing intense tough guys. However, his appearance on Roseanne was a job, not a career pivot. His compensation was the standard union scale for a recurring player, roughly $3,500 to $5,000 per week, a humble paycheck for a man who carried entire action movies on his back. Hauser's tragedy is not one of death, but of the brutal erasure of aging actors. He openly battled substance abuse issues in his youth, admitting to being difficult on sets, which eventually cooled his career. He had watched as his generation of tough guys died off or were forgotten before his death on March 15, 2025 at 77. He faded from the A-list conversation, having lived a quiet life, far removed from the glory days. His net worth was estimated at $1 million, a modest retirement for a man with over 100 acting credits. He had survived as a ghost of a grittier era of Hollywood. Fun fact: he is the father of Cole Hauser, who plays Rip Wheeler on the massive hit Yellowstone, proving that the intense, tough guy gene was passed down even if the father's fame waned. Ty Tilden was a rugged neighbor, but Jackie's next boyfriend was a man known to the world as a goofy commercial character, hiding a Shakespearean soul behind a rubber face. Jim Varney joined the show 1996 in the role of Prince Carlos at 47. The man trapped inside the earnest character who smoked his life away while making children laugh. Jim Varney appeared as Prince Carlos, a melancholic royal who dates Jackie. To the world, he was Ernest P. Worrell, the goofball from hundreds of commercials and movies. However, this fame was a golden cage. While the Ernest movies generated millions, Varney's salary for TV guest spots like Roseanne was capped at the special guest rate of roughly $30,000. He was desperate to be taken seriously as a dramatic actor, but Hollywood wouldn't let him shed the denim vest. His private tragedy was a lethal addiction to cigarettes. A heavy chain smoker, his entire life he developed lung cancer that metastasized to his brain. The man who possessed a boundless energy on screen was reduced to a shadow, dying on February 10, 2000, at the tragic age of 50. He left behind a net worth of $12 million, but he died with the heartbreaking regret of never playing Hamlet, the role he had trained for his entire life, before the world decided he was just a clown. Fun fact: he had a near-genius IQ and could recite Shakespeare's plays from memory, a talent he would show off at parties to shock people who only knew him as the know-who-to-me-in guy. Jim Varney was a fictional prince, but the next guest star was genuine American royalty, a country music queen who rose from dirt-poor poverty to become a millionaire, yet never escaped the pain of her past. Loretta Lynn joined the show 1993 in the role of herself at 61, the coal miner's daughter who survived a lifetime of abuse to become the soul of the show. Loretta Lynn appeared as herself, cementing the show's connection to the white working class. Unlike the actors, Lynn was a music mogul, but her start was lower than the Connors could ever imagine. She married at 15 to a moonshiner and had 4 kids by 18. While her appearance fee on Roseanne was likely a standard $5,000 honorarium, her real wealth came from a touring empire. However, her life was a symphony of pain. She endured decades of physical and emotional abuse from her husband, Dew, battling his alcoholism and infidelity while writing songs about it. She outlived 2 of her own children, a mother's worst nightmare. She suffered a debilitating stroke in 2017 that stole her ability to play the guitar. She passed away on October 4th, 2022 at the age of 90. She left behind a massive net worth of $65 million, but every dollar was paid for in tears, blood, and the memory of a childhood where she didn't even have shoes to wear to her father's funeral. Fun fact: she was the first woman in country music to write her own #1 hit, and her controversial song, The Pill, about birth control, was banned by radio stations, yet she refused to back down. Loretta Lynn sang about the coal mines, but our next guest star sang one of the biggest rock anthems of the 70s, only to fight a gruesome battle with a tumor that silenced the music forever. Doug Fieger joined the show 1992 in the role of Nick at 40, the voice of My Sharona, whose rock star dreams turned into a 6-year medical nightmare. Doug Fieger played Nick, a musician friend of Mark Healey. Fieger was the lead singer of The Knack, famous for the global smash hit My Sharona. While that one song generated millions in royalties, his acting career was a minor footnote. For his role on Roseanne, he was paid the minimum SAG daily rate, roughly $400 to $500. The disparity was wild. He was a man who had sold 6 million records working for Peanuts on a sitcom set. His tragedy was slow and excruciating. In 2004, he was diagnosed with glioblastoma multiforme, an aggressive and incurable brain cancer. He fought the disease for 6 long years, enduring 2 brain surgeries and experimental treatments that ravaged his body. He eventually lost his ability to coordinate his movements, a cruel fate for a performer. He died on February 14, 2010, at the age of 57. He left behind a net worth of $5 million, proving that having the biggest song in the world couldn't buy a cure for the tumor growing inside his mind. Fun fact: his younger brother is Jeffrey Fieger, the infamous high-profile attorney who defended Dr. Jack Kevorkian, the Dr. Death, of assisted suicide, creating a strange link between the singer and the legal world of death. The music has faded, and now we turn to a comedian who started in the burlesque halls of the 1940s, a man who told jokes for 50 years, but hid a deep loneliness behind his smile. Red Buttons joined the show 1993 in the role of Jake at 74, the Oscar-winning legend who went from the top of the world to working for guest star wages in his twilight years. Red Buttons appeared as Jake, a charming older gentleman who courts Nana Mary. In 1993, casting Red Buttons was a major coup. He was an Academy Award winner for Sayonara 1957 and a comedy icon of the 1950s. However, the economics of 90s television were brutal to aging stars. While Roseanne Barr was earning a reported $1 million per episode, Buttons was likely paid the special guest star ceiling of approximately $25,000 for his appearance. It was a respectable sum, but a humbling fraction of the wealth commanded by the new generation of sitcom stars who had never achieved his level of critical acclaim. Buttons' career was a roller coaster of extreme highs and crushing lows. After his Oscar win, he famously struggled to get work, joking that the Oscar is the only thing in Hollywood that doesn't have an agent. He spent decades fearing he would be forgotten, working tirelessly until the very end to stay relevant. He died on July 13, 2006 at the age of 87 from vascular disease. He left behind a net worth of $5 million, a fortune preserved through frugality and fear of returning to the poverty of his youth, dying as one of the last links to the golden era of burlesque. Fun fact: before he was an actor, he was a singing waiter at a tavern in the Bronx, where he invented his stage name Red Buttons because of his red hair and the shiny buttons on his bellhop uniform. Red Buttons was a comedy giant, but the man appearing alongside him as Uncle Soul was a Las Vegas titan who commanded the highest salary on the Strip, yet suffered from a mental anguish that nearly destroyed him. Shecky Greene joined the show 1995 in the role of Uncle Saul at 69, the king of Las Vegas who battled terrifying inner demons while making the world scream with laughter. Shecky Greene played Uncle Saul, a character that brought the old-school Jewish humor of the Catskills to Lanford. In his prime, Greene was arguably the most successful stand-up comic in America, earning a staggering $100,000 per week in Las Vegas in the 1970s, more than Frank Sinatra. However, his appearance on Roseanne was a different story. He worked for the standard union guest rate, likely $5,000 to $7,000, a token sum for a man who used to own the Strip. The tragedy of Shecky Greene was the torture behind the microphone. He suffered from debilitating stage fright and severe panic attacks that were so intense he would sometimes vomit before going on stage. He battled manic depression and a fierce temper that led to legendary brawls and a car crash where he drove into the fountains at Caesar's Palace. He spent his final decades largely in seclusion, unable to reconcile his genius with his anxiety. He passed away recently on December 31st, 2023 at the age of 97. He left behind a net worth of $10 million, but he died with the reputation of a genius who could have been a movie star if his own mind hadn't been his greatest enemy. Fun fact: he was the opening act for Elvis Presley in Las Vegas, but the two men hated each other so much that Shecky would often mock Elvis from the stage, leading to tense standoffs backstage. Uncle Saul was loud and brash, but the character played by our next actor was a quiet, bizarre grandmother figure, portrayed by a man whose career was violently stolen by the U.S. government. Phil Leeds joined the show 1993 in the role of Grandmama Lily at 77, the blacklisted survivor who was forced to play a woman to get a laugh after his prime was erased. Phil Leeds appeared in a memorable drag role as Leon's grandmother, a testament to his willingness to do anything for a laugh. With his hangdog face, Leeds was the ultimate that guy character actor. However, his career statistics hide a devastating gap. In the 1950s, Leeds was a rising star until he was placed on the Hollywood blacklist for refusing to name names to the House Un-American Activities Committee. For years, he was banned from working, his prime earning potential utterly destroyed. By the time he appeared on Roseanne, he was an old man scraping by on Day Player, contracts earning the SAG minimum of roughly $500 per day. He lost millions in potential lifetime earnings due to political persecution. He lived a solitary life in Los Angeles, never marrying, known for walking miles around the city because he refused to drive. He died on August 16, 1998, at the age of 82 from pneumonia. He left behind a modest estate of under $500. The financial scars of the blacklist never fully healing, even as he made us laugh in his final years. Fun fact: he was a master of the slow burn reaction shot, which is why he was cast as the ghost who haunts Demi Moore in the blockbuster film Ghost 1990, a role that introduced him to a new generation. Phil Leeds was a master of the reaction shot, but the next actress on our list was the undisputed queen of authority figures, a woman who disciplined the Blues Brothers but couldn't defeat a terminal illness. Kathleen Freeman joined the show 1996 in the role of Edna at 73, the iron-fisted matriarch of comedy who worked on her deathbed to entertain the crowd. Kathleen Freeman played Edna, the strict teacher type that she had perfected over a 50-year career. She is perhaps best known as the Penguin, the nun in the Blues Brothers. Despite being Jerry Lewis's favorite co-star and appearing in over 300 projects, Freeman was never a wealthy woman. She was a working-class actor, often earning the standard weekly supporting rate of $3,500 to $5,000 for sitcom appearances like Roseanne. She never demanded the spotlight content to be the foil who made the stars look funny. Her dedication was absolute and tragic. In 2001, while starring in the Broadway musical The Full Monty, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. Instead of going home to rest, she refused to leave the show, performing through the pain until she physically could not stand. She died on August 23, 2001 at the age of 78, just 5 days after her final bow on stage. She left behind a net worth of $3 million, a fortune earned not from one big hit, but from thousands of days of showing up, delivering the line, and taking the pie in the face. Fun fact: she was the voice of Peg Bundy's mom on Married with Children, a character who was constantly heard screaming, but was never actually seen on screen. Kathleen Freeman played a strict authority figure, but our next actress played a mother whose later success in Desperate Housewives came too late to save her from a lifetime of smoking-related illness. Kathryn Joosten joined the show 1996 in the role of Carol at 57, the late bloomer who went from psychiatric nurse to Emmy winner, only to have her victory lap cut short. Katherine Joosten had a small role as Carol, a supermarket customer, years before she became world famous. Her story is one of the most inspiring yet tragic in Hollywood. She didn't even start acting until she was 42, having spent her life as a psychiatric nurse in Chicago. For her role in Roseanne, she was a complete unknown, earning the absolute SAG minimum of roughly $485 for the day. She was a struggling older actress living paycheck to paycheck, often fixing up old furniture to make ends meet. She eventually struck gold as Mrs. Landingham on The West Wing, and Karen McCluskey on Desperate Housewives, finally earning $30,000 plus per episode. But the irony was cruel. Just as she achieved financial security and won 2 Emmy Awards, her past caught up with her. A heavy smoker for decades, having started while working as a nurse, she developed lung cancer. She died on June 2, 2012 at the age of 72, mirroring the death of her Desperate Housewives character. She left behind a net worth of $4 million, money she barely got to enjoy after 60 years of struggle. Fun fact: she didn't have an agent for the first 10 years of her acting career. She booked all her early jobs, including her first sitcom roles, by answering help wanted ads in trade papers and harassing casting directors herself. Katherine Joosten was a customer at the store, but our next actress was a neighbor in the Connor neighborhood, a woman who survived being a hostage in Die Hard, only to die quietly at the age of 98. Selma Archer joined the show 1994 in the role of Lucille at 69, the society lady who graced 100 backgrounds, ending her career as the neighbor next door. Selma Archer played Lucille, the neighbor who often interacted with Roseanne and Jackie. Archer was the quintessential atmosphere player, famous for her cameos in Die Hard as a hostage and Melrose Place. For Roseanne, she was paid the recurring guest rate, likely $2,500 to $3,500 per episode. While she never achieved lead actress fame, she was a staple of 90s television, a reliable face that signaled upper-class neighbor or nosy bystander. Unlike the tragic early deaths of many on this list, Archer's tragedy was simply the silence that follows a long life in the background. She worked consistently until the early 2000s and then vanished into retirement. She died recently on December 14, 2023, at the impressive age of 98. She passed away peacefully in Los Angeles, leaving behind a modest estate of $1.5 million and a filmography of over 50 credits where she was rarely the focus, but always essential to the scene. She represents the thousands of actors who build the world of a show line by line without ever getting the magazine cover. Fun fact: she is perhaps best known to Gen X viewers, not for Roseanne, but for appearing in the 1980s classic Airplane as one of the passengers, showcasing her ability to play comedy with a completely straight face. The neighbors in Lanford provided stability, but our next actor was a versatile talent who appeared in the final seasons, only to be struck down by pancreatic cancer just as his career was stabilizing. Jack Blessing joined the show 1991 in the role of Cyrano at 40, the everyman of Hollywood, whose decades of reliable work ended in a rapid, silent decline. Jack Blessing appeared as Cyrano, a neighbor and friend to the Connors, inhabiting the role with the ease of a man who had spent his life on sets. Blessing was the quintessential working actor, the face you recognize from Moonlighting or George Lopez, but the name you couldn't place. In the 1990s, the financial gap between a recurring guest star and a series lead was an ocean. While Roseanne Barr and John Goodman were securing multi-million-dollar contracts, Blessing was working for the standard SAG weekly rate, estimated at $3,500 to $4,500 per week. He had to book 10 different shows a year just to equal what the stars made in a single hour. He didn't have the luxury of downtime. He was a blue-collar craftsman in a glittery town. His tragedy was sudden and aggressive. In 2017, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, one of the most lethal and painful forms of the disease. He passed away on November 14, 2017, at the age of 66. He died at his home in Chatsworth, California, leaving behind a net worth of approximately $1.5 million, a nest egg built not on excess, but on 40 years of saying yes to every audition, proving that the backbone of the industry is built by men who die with little fanfare. Fun fact: he was a prolific voice actor and provided the voice for the character Omega Red in the classic X-Men the Animated Series, a role that gave him cult status among 90s kids. Jack Blessing was a reliable presence, but the next actor on our list was another familiar face from the 90s, whose sudden heart failure shocked fans who remembered him as the funny regular guy next door. Stephen Lee joined the show 1991 in the role of Barney at 36, the character actor with the friendly face whose heart gave out just as he was finding a second wind. Stephen Lee played Barney, a friend of Dan and a customer at the poker games. Lee was a master of playing the regular guy, the contractor, the neighbor, the cabinet maker. He brought a warmth to Roseanne that grounded the show in reality. However, his compensation was strictly that of a day player. For his appearances, he likely earned the union minimum of roughly $500 per day or $2,500 per week. While the show generated billions in syndication, revenue actors like Lee received checks for pennies, sometimes literally receiving residual checks for 0.14. He struggled with his weight and health for years, a common battle for character actors typecast as the heavy-set friend. The industry often ignores the health of its supporting players until it's too late. On August 14, 2014, Lee suffered a massive fatal heart attack in his apartment. He was only 58 years old. It was a lonely end for a man who had shared the screen with giants. He left behind a modest estate of under $500,000, dying young, and leaving a void in the casting world where friendly giants are surprisingly hard to find. Fun fact: he is instantly recognizable to Seinfeld fans as Conrad, the over-anxious cabinet maker who drives Jerry insane by taking too long to fix his kitchen cabinets. Stephen Lee died of natural causes, but our next actress was a prestigious theater star whose life was violently stolen in a senseless accident on the streets of New York City. Lisa Baines joined the show 1994 in the role of Mrs. Sims at 39, the Juilliard-trained star whose elegant life was shattered by a hit-and-run driver on a summer evening. Lisa Baines appeared as Mrs. Sims, a snobbish mother who clashes with Roseanne. Baines was not a sitcom regular. She was acting royalty, a Juilliard graduate and a star of Broadway and major films like Gone Girl. Her appearance on Roseanne was a slumming it moment for a paycheck earning the standard guest rate of $3,500 for the week. She spent her life dedicated to the craft of high art, commanding respect, if not the massive millions of TV stars. Her death is the most violent and shocking on this list. On June 4, 2021, while walking across a crosswalk in Manhattan on her way to meet her wife for a dinner party, she was struck by an electric scooter that blew through a red light. The driver fled the scene, leaving her bleeding on the pavement with a severe traumatic brain injury. She clung to life in the ICU for 10 days but never recovered. She died on June 14, 2021 at the age of 65. She left behind a net worth of $2 million and a devastated wife, a victim of a senseless crime that silenced one of the most distinct voices in American theater. Fun fact: she played the mother of Rosamund Pike's character in Gone Girl, bringing a terrifyingly cold sophistication to the role that made her famous to a new generation. Lisa Baines died in a tragic accident, but the next actor on our list fought a darker internal war, a rising star whose demons led him to a lonely hotel room in Las Vegas. David Strickland joined the show 1995 in the role of First Cop at 26. The babyface comic on the verge of superstardom who couldn't outrun the darkness in his own mind. David Strickland had a tiny role as First Cop in Roseanne, earning a mere $485 day rate. But just months later, he struck gold, landing a lead role on the hit sitcom Suddenly Susan alongside Brooke Shields. Suddenly, he was earning $20,000 per episode, driving fast cars and dating Saved by the Belle star Tiffany Thiessen. He had achieved the Hollywood dream that everyone on this list chased. But behind the boyish grin and the newfound wealth was a man unraveling. Strickland suffered from severe bipolar disorder and had stopped taking his lithium. He spiraled into a drug-fueled manic episode that ended in tragedy. On March 22, 1999, he checked into the Oasis Motel in Las Vegas, drank several bottles of beer, and hanged himself with a bedsheet. He was only 29 years old. He died with a net worth of $1 million, money that had accumulated quickly, but offered no protection against his mental illness. His death shattered the cast of Suddenly Susan and remains a cautionary tale of how quickly the pressure of fame can destroy a fragile mind. Fun fact: he was considered one of the most promising physical comedians of his generation, often compared to a young Jim Carrey for his ability to use his body for laughs. David Strickland lost his battle with mental illness, but the next actor was born into a billionaire dynasty, proving that even unlimited money cannot save a child star from the curse of addiction. Jason Davis joined the show 1993 in the role of obnoxious vampire kid at 9. The billionaire heir who played a brat on TV then lived a real-life nightmare of heroin and decay. Jason Davis is remembered by Roseanne fans as the obnoxious vampire kid who terrorizes Roseanne on Halloween. What fans didn't know was that this child actor was the grandson of Marvin Davis, the oil tycoon and former owner of 20th Century Fox. Jason was born into a fortune worth billions. His acting salary of $300 for the role was irrelevant. He could buy the studio if he wanted, yet the curse of the Davis family consumed him. Despite having access to the best rehabs money could buy, Jason fell into a deep public spiral of heroin and fentanyl addiction. He appeared on Celebrity Rehab looking gaunt and broken, a ghost of the chubby kid from the sitcom. He tried desperately to get clean, funding a charity to help others, but the grip of opioids was too strong. He died on February 16, 2020 at the age of 35 from a fentanyl overdose in a bathroom in Los Angeles. He left behind a trust fund worth millions, but he died spiritually bankrupt, proving that you cannot write a check to cure the soul. Fun fact: he was the voice of the gentle giant Mikey in the beloved Disney cartoon Recess, a soft-spoken role that contrasted sharply with his chaotic real life. The death of a child star is tragic, but the deepest wound in the history of Roseanne remains the loss of the main cast member who played the rebellious heartthrob, a man who had the world at his feet, but died sleeping on a friend's couch. Glenn Quinn joined the show 1990 in the role of Mark Healy at 20. The leather-jacketed heartthrob who stole Becky's heart, but lost his own life to the heroin epidemic. Glenn Quinn burst onto the screen as Mark Healy, the bad boy mechanic, who becomes a permanent part of the Connor family. With his brooding looks, he became an instant teen idol. In the early seasons, he was earning a standard recurring rate, but by the mid-90s, his contract had risen to approximately $15,000 to $29,000 per episode. While this was good money, it wasn't the FU money of Roseanne Barr. Quinn lived fast, buying classic cars and partying hard at the Viper Room. However, when Roseanne ended and his next show Angel killed off his character, the work dried up. The money ran out. He fell into homelessness and severe drug addiction, pawning his possessions to buy heroin. The man who millions of girls had crushed on was now sleeping on a friend's couch in North Hollywood. On December 3, 2002, he was found dead from a heroin overdose. He was only 32 years old. He left behind a net worth of $0, literally penniless, a devastating fall for a man who had once been on the top-rated show in America. His death leaves a permanent hole in the cast, a tragedy so deep that the reboot The Connors dedicated an entire storyline to mourning him. Fun fact: he was actually born in Dublin, Ireland, and had a thick Irish accent that he had to hide completely to play the American Midwestern mechanic Mark. He worked with a dialect coach for hours every day to perfect the dumb jock drawl. It's bittersweet looking back at the cast of Roseanne. Though time has passed and some stars have left us, their legacy remains timeless on screen. Which story shocked or touched you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe to help us keep these memories alive. Thanks for watching.